on the importance of engine break-in and painting a boat for the first time with epoxy. How many layers do you guys use? Hey there, sorry to take you away from the video, but real quick, did you know that on average a boat owner will spend between $1,000 and $5,000 a year just on servicing their engine? And you could actually pocket and save a lot of that money if you would just do the service yourself. It might seem like a daunting task, but I guarantee you virtually everyone can do it with our guidance and the Boaters program. This is just one skill that you could learn inside the program because we have hundreds of other videos teaching you all kinds of boating skills, as well as a weekly live stream where we have questions and answers with me, as well as a chat feature where you can send videos and pictures, ask all kinds of questions, or look for some advice or some guidance on a project that you're doing on your boat. You can join the program by hitting the first link in the description, clicking join, or visiting bornagainboating.com. Now back to the video. So engine break-in is important. I mean, if you don't break in the engine properly, if you think about it, you have all of these metal components that are freshly machined. So you just have a complete engine that had drill bits drilling out passages, creating all the orifices and everything in the engine, all where the valves are seating, the piston rings, like everything is new. It is freshly machined. So the break-in is heating all that stuff up. And then whenever you heat metal up, it forms it, basically. I mean, it doesn't really form it, but it I guess forging might be the right word. Maybe that's the wrong word. Heating and cooling metal shapes it, basically. So whenever you break your engine in, all of your bearings and all of your rings and all that stuff, if there was a little piece of metal that is stuck on there where it didn't get completely shaved off on any component that could be inside the engine, when you break in the engine, that kind of stuff gets shaved off, and you have metal on metal contact where it creates little flakes of metal in your oil, and the oil catches it, puts it in the oil filter, and then boom, that's breaking it in. So how long does the break-in period last? Every manufacturer wants 10 hours. How they do it for the first hour, first 2 hours, next 8 hours is a different process. It's all pretty much the same. Basically, they want you to as minimal idle time as possible, and no wide open throttle more than 5 minutes at a time, no wide open throttle in the first 2 hours of the engine, and vary your RPMs every 15 minutes, basically. So that's virtually most break-in periods for most manufacturers. As far as the painting of the boat for the first time with epoxy, how many layers do you got? However many you want, really. I mean, like, you want, and are we talking about, you're saying epoxy, I mean, are you talking, so an epoxy paint, how many layers do you want? 2, 3? I generally like 2 or 3. You've got 2 coats of primer usually, and then also say 2 to 3 coats of paint. That's generally what I would do, is 2 coats of epoxy. You would sand everything down the boat, spray it with your primer, come back, fair, fill, all that kind of stuff, spray it again with the primer, sand it, come back, and then now hit it with your first layer of paint, second layer of paint, and then whether you want to do a third layer or not, that's kind of like up to you, but I would say at least 2 layers of paint. Muffins Bear says, it would seem to me that the complexity and expense of today's outboard engines would make a case for switching to an inboard engine, which would allow for more reliability and the ability to be maintained and repaired by owners. Inboard technology is just an extension of automotive technology. That's kind of goes back to our first topic, and to a point. Outboard technology is not that, to say that you can't maintain and repair your own engine is, you just aren't putting the work in to do it. Like, to do a service on an outboard engine is extremely simple. I mean, they have laid it out to where it is very easy to do virtually any one of the engines that are out there. So I would say that that's not necessarily true. Anybody that can work on an inboard engine should be able to work on an outboard. I would say that they're the same. Now, depending on the repair, that's totally different, because the technology on inboards is just as advanced as the outboard is. I mean, they're virtually the same thing, and a lot of them use the same sensors and the same stuff. So, as far as that goes, depending on the repair is going to depend on, what the problem is and how bad it is to diagnose. But I mean, if you start talking about O2 sensors and all this other stuff, like you kind of need you need a computer to do that stuff on a car too. I mean, automotive technologies, it's the same thing. You still need a computer to work on a lot of that stuff. Now, the days of a carburetor and being able to repair a carburetor, that's you don't get the fuel economy and like all the stuff that you enjoy and the features of the engine. You don't get that with simple stuff. Just like your automotive stuff, a completely decked out with the highest trim level of a car is going to be just as complex, if not more complex than what you got in your boat. Now, the location is also going to play a big factor here as well, because if you've got an inboard engine in South Florida, say, like that's a bad idea. Like that's not the engine that you want to have down here. Very undesirable, very problematic. Takes a lot of time off the water because you're constantly dealing with corrosion issues, your risers, your manifolds, all that other stuff we talked about earlier. But anywhere else, it's fine. But I don't think a lot of people realize how, because you have a boating season. If you're from the north and your boating season is only 2-3 months out of the year, you're only putting a couple hundred hours on the boat in a year. You think that the affordability of an inboard engine is more desirable, but when you come down here and you can use your boat a lot more and it's in the water a lot and you start having the corrosion issues, you realize very quickly that it is way more expensive. Like some of these sport fish boats or some of these bigger boats, like the yachts and stuff, like they spend tens of thousands of dollars every year just on maintenance, like just to in the seacocks and the manifolds and the risers and the bellows and like all the stuff, the drive gear underneath, your propellers, the packing bearing, all this stuff that is constantly having to be changed, replaced, cleaned, and worked on. It's a lot of money. So, I think that's just it's something that you don't have any experience in, and until you get that experience, that's the way it seems. But now, if you like this video, you can watch the full episode over here, or you can watch another clip over here.